You said when you were in Iowa and you first started reading Krishnamurti's Flight of the Eagle, which you discovered by chance, and other books subsequently, there weren't anybody else around to discuss these things, so it was you and life. I had exact same situation.
Okay.
I read Think on These Things when I was starting college, and not only there weren't people around, I didn't want to have contact. Because at that time my feeling was that this is so precious, and I have everything I need in order to go at this. Test it in my daily life. And at that time I felt if there were other people and they start talking about this, they could dilute it, you know. Anyway, so I could really feel what you were saying there. How do you feel about that? Do you think it was a good thing at that time to be completely solo in a way?
Yes, yes. Yes. Also, I haven't told you, and I haven't told anybody that there was something else which was very important at that time, because I was a student, and there was one girl whom I liked very much, but American girl, and that relationship, from that there were lots of conflict within me, you know. And so I was reading the book and examining myself, and so there was a lot of I could really feel experimental, yes, like love in relationship, you know, that kind of Krishnamurti's article. Then I found that yes, what he says is true, that this is not love when you depend on somebody, or when you feel jealous of somebody looking at her, then it is not love. So this many things were going on inside me, and continuous challenge was existing because of this relationship, you know. So it was a very, very strong relationship emotionally. At the same time, there were two things. One was very strong relationship, liking for her. At the other time, that I knew that my life was not meant for married life and living with somebody. So I was pulled from both sides, you know. But I knew that if there is Buddha on one side and a beautiful girl on the other side, I would go to Buddha, you know. That was very clear to me. Because I used to read Ramakrishna when I was young. Ramakrishna. And he also used to tell young people that don't get involved with girls, don't get married, because once you get married, you are finished. You know.
He was married himself to Sharada Devi.
Yes, but he was not. Yes, he married, but he had no married life that. Yes,
he was quite an interesting person. I read a lot of his things too, as well as Vivekananda, whom you also read.
So when Ramakrishna came to know that Vivekananda was going to get married, Ramakrishna cried and he worshipped Kali and said, "Please break that relation."
Krishnamurti did that too. To one of our friends here who wanted to get married, and he says, "No." And but in this particular case, and anyway. So
that relationship.
But he wasn't against it.
He wasn't against.
He wasn't against marriage in general. I mean, it would be foolish to be against, because if it wasn't for that, you and I wouldn't be here.
Right.
You know, it's part of the natural process.
That's right.
And I respect people, you know, who
There's
go
so
into
much
it
to learn from a relationship also, you know. And it really helped me, and even now, I saw the same girl whom I liked very much recently after 36 years. And I feel the same feeling of love, you know, but without jealousy and all that dependence. And so it's really, I feel wonderful to come across Krishnamurti to take me in this direction in which I have gone. So Krishnamurti and that girl, two people And when I was young, Ramakrishna, these three people have affected my life very much.
Yeah, I could name some people, like a professor, my father, and Kay, and some other people who affect. And these people who affect your life deeply, they stay with you all the time in a way.
Right.
But it's the perfume, it's the teaching. It's not the teacher anymore. It's the pointers, because they're just pointers, and what they point to is the important thing. But of course, the human habit is to start worshipping the pointers.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
I've learned most of my deep lessons in life, in relationships, in real life, in daily life, with a nasty boss or a girl or whatever. All the good things and bad things and all the challenges that life provides. These are the mirrors of relationship.
Yeah. I remember I saw you here in Ohio many years ago. Maybe it was 95.
Yeah.
And you were interested in one yoga teacher, and she was a girl, and you told me that you like that girl more than yoga.
Could be. It sounds like a familiar story.
And she was beautiful. Her picture was there. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I fall in love regularly.
Yeah, right.
But it's not falling in.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's love.
Yeah. It's rising in, you can say. Yeah.
All the beautiful things of life.
Right. Yeah.
It could be the smile of a child running, or the beautiful sunset, or a beautiful face.
I tell you something very important thing. Like when this girl got married, then I did not know that she was going to get married, but she got married, and I felt like what Krishnaji felt when Nitya died, So I also really was crying, and then after few days I had some kind of vision, and I saw the God was smiling, and he was saying that now this person will love many people like the way he loved this girl, but without any feeling of any ill feelings. So in my life I have come across many girls also. I loved them, but without expecting anything, And even many of my students, really I have cried for them also, but not out of loneliness, but real
out of sensitivity, beauty, joy.
Yes,
of course.
Right, and it's wonderful to come across many people. Easy to, and I can never think ill about any woman.
You studied Krishnamurti on your own. You understood what he said.
I could see. Not understood, it's not thinking, but yes, like when he says...
But you also understood.
Yeah.
You understood and you saw it, you applied it, maybe you absorbed it, it made sense. I don't know what words to use. You digested it.
No, it is like saying that this is a camera, Krishnamurti is just saying that all these feelings like jealousy, anger, loneliness, it all comes from thinking. So you can really see it coming. If you are really aware, you can see the beginning of it, And then it seems obvious what he says.
He said many things.
Many things.
He pointed out to many things. But my point is that the 5,000-mile view, you absorbed what Kay said. You tested in your daily life. I did the same.
Yeah.
And I would not say it's difficult. Would you say it's difficult? It's not more difficult than physics.
No, nothing difficult. When you see it, something clearly,
right?
It is like that.
Okay. So you and I, the two of us, we understood what Kay said. Maybe I don't want to say in its totality or anything like, forget about that. But we understood enough of these pointers. The man who walks and says, there is a rose there. And it's up to you. You go smell the rose. It enriches your life. So it enriched our lives. Maybe some things we didn't agree with, some things we agreed with, or whatever. So but it happened to at least 2 people. So this ends the discussion out here, which Krishnamurti said nobody understood him, which is nonsense. He never said that.
Right.
He was talking about people who were around him.
Right, yeah.
That's one thing. And secondly, there's another thing going on here where they say, oh, Krishnamurti is so difficult to understand. It's not. If you have diligence, if you really take the time, give it the energy to read those books, not as a scripture, but just, you know, at least try to see what this guy who took the time to write these things, what does he have to say? It's not difficult. This dispels 2 myths.
Right, yeah.
And these myths are very powerful. You hear it in Krishnamurti circles all the time, which is unfortunate because actually it's a way of, the way I see it is an excuse for laziness. Because if nobody got it, then I don't even have to be bothered about these challenges, you know, because the challenges can be disturbing. It requires attention, you know.
Yeah, yes. So as long as we are thinking, then it is very difficult to understand. But understanding or seeing is non-verbal, you know. So either you see it clearly or you don't see it. It's like that. And when you see it, then it changes you from inside. And so intellectual understanding creates more problems.
You know, of course, insight is action.
Yeah.
It's not a question of choice anymore.
Right.
When you have a vision, an insight into something, this is its own action. This is, he puts it so profoundly, and it is so. Yes. It's not so because he says it. Right. He just is the rose is not a rose because I say there is a rose there. You see. Nevertheless, I never could really relate to the notion of just theoretical understanding versus actual, because if you really deeply understand, if you really deeply see, that's all there is to it.
Right. We had also discussion with Krishnaji, and he said there is nothing to learn, nothing to understand, only to see whatever is happening, you know. And we had some discussion with him, with Pupulji was also there, and Pupulji asked him, well, how can you say that there is nothing to learn? And Krishnaji said, I said there is nothing to learn, do you agree? Then everybody was quiet. Then I said, yes, I agree with you. I told. So then Krishnaji said, you explain to Pupulji, why do you say that there is nothing to learn? So I told Pupulji that if you want to understand something which is not very clear, there is something to understand. But if you see what is clearly, then that seeing is there. Nothing to understand, you know. Moment by moment, whatever is coming, to be in touch with it. That is what Krishnamurti is talking about. In that there is no interpretation, no analysis, nothing to understand, only to see. And that seeing is the action, you know. So
it was very cumbersome to read some of these discussions he had with people who were close to him all his life. This poor guy spends a whole hour or half an hour trying to get a point across, and then they turn around and ask him something which obviously shows that they have no clue what he's talking about. Something which is actually not that difficult to see. So why is that? There's different theories around why. I mean, some people say these people who were very close to him, they were too caught in the personality, because he was electric. Right. You were next to him, I was next to him, I shook hands with him and talked with him. Right. Just being next to him, you know, he's got tremendous amount of energy. So maybe that's part of the reason. Another reason for others in general, not necessarily those who are around him, have a hard time understanding him. I see 2 things. One is that, as you said, and as David Bowen pointed out in a dialogue they had together, the self is so strong that it doesn't let you see, because seeing means ending of the self. Right. And secondly, perhaps because people are not exposed to these ideas. I grew up since childhood reading Hafiz and Rumi and so on and so forth, and getting exposed to various ideas which were similar to this. But if somebody hasn't been around these things for any time in their life, maybe it's a bit more difficult. But on the other hand, I meet people, young people or even older people who come to this first time. It really touches them deeply.
Yeah. Yes.
The only people that I hear who are always complaining about not getting it are some of the old timers, and then they turn out and blame him for it. It's like it's his fault.
Yeah.
It's like pulling teeth.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
What about? Go ahead if you wanted to.
To understand Krishnamurti, you have to understand yourself, moment by moment, whatever. So, if you don't have that ability to look without thinking, that what he calls choiceless awareness, in that choiceless awareness, everything is unfolding in front of you, and you see it, and it doesn't create any problem. But when that awareness is not there, and thinking and desiring, I want this, I want that, power, position, money, respectability, all this, people are into, they can't be free from, most people can't be free from that desire to become somebody,
Well, it's a very strong, deep conditioning.
Yeah, right.
Becoming.
Right.
Since childhood, I mean, you spent your life, your career in a school, so you saw this firsthand. Maybe you didn't teach in our traditional schools, but in traditional schools, it's very much like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I travel a lot and I meet many people of various cultures, and this idea of running your life based on what people think of you, an image of others, people image of you.
Right. Yeah.
Comparison, becoming, measurement, all of these things is so dominant in the
That's
mind.
right. Yeah.
And Kay goes to the root of it. He says, is it possible to not have any image, psychological image, because practical image you need.
Right.
You need to know where your house is.
Right.
But without any image of yourself, image of another person's image of you, image of people go through life confusion and misery and imposing that misery on others because they have an image of what your image of yourself is.
Yeah.
So talk about illusions.
Yes. So when we really, a person who can read Krishnamurti can look and gets this awareness, then it really begins to change your brain. I feel from my own, after I started reading Krishnamurti, my brain has been throbbing day and night by itself, and it's not, it has changed the way I looked at the objects. It happened very quickly in Iowa itself, that I could see the trees look so fresh, so beautiful, so clear. I could see the expression changing on the faces of people, the colors, shape, which I had not experienced such thing before. But because I begin to be aware of this thinking which were coming and watching without thinking, it began to really change many things within the body and the brain, and then I could see things so clear, so beautiful. And like I used to look at the lamp outside, street light from the window of my room, and it seemed like the distance disappeared between light and me. Even when I was driving at night, looking at the street lights, it looked so wonderful, so beautiful, and my mind is not fully aware. I don't make any accident or anything, but it looks so wonderful to just look, and one can live like that. I feel that Krishnamurti looked all the time without this thinker, without looker. And that's why when first time I met, that look I saw, which was not focused on anything, it was wide, attention. And so my mind also stopped, and then I felt some kind of relationship, because he says, relationship is, the real relationship is without images. Our relationships are based on I like, I don't like, so many things. So our looking is not very clear, very fresh, pure. Krishnamurti's looking was like that because he was like that. He did not try to do anything.
And this was not some incredibly extraordinary thing. This is something you and I have in our lives too.
Right.
To go down for a walk. To go for a walk and to see birds, to hear the birds singing, to feel the breeze, to see the trees, and not have, and be inwardly very quiet. Right. So there is no me with all of its struggles and its problems. And when it arises, then you see it, and there is that seeing. But the big difference between Krishnamurti and traditional gurus and various, and even today's pop psychology, which is going nuts with all the methods and all these money-making schemes. The key difference that I see is that he goes to the root of the problem and says, you need to understand what you are. You can't just go repeat some mantra or somehow try to manage your state into another state, transform it, transmute it, transcend it by some means, esoteric, or the touch of the guru, or whatever it might be. If your room is a mess, you need to clean it up. Right? Whether it's your physical room or the room here. So when I'm walking down the street and if my mind starts going somewhere, then I don't suppress it. I have a little notebook and I look and I say, oh, something needs to be done, and I write it down. Then I'm back into the quiet state.
Right.
In India, they have the schools. The last place you taught was the Valley School?
Valley School.
Okay. In the Valley School, do they have an inquiry hour or what do they call it? The culture class? Or some
because it's a day school.
It's a day school.
So everything is very packed at time.
But some of the K schools in India have a culture class. I know in Rajghat, in fact I taught one of those classes a couple of times.
Satish, Dr. Inamdar, he takes culture class,
So there is one also at the
senior students.
For senior students, of course, because the little younger ones, it's more, they learn it through the atmosphere and so on. But
11th and 12th standard, they have culture class.
Okay.
And but in Valley School, the teachers, every day some teachers meet after assembly, morning assembly, and it is on their timetable. They come and sit in a circle, about 10-15 people in every day, and then they are given some book, whether it's commentaries on living or Krishnamurti on education,
letters
and
to schools.
they read and then they discuss. This goes on every day.
That's good.
In Valley School, because Dr. Inamdar is interested, very passionate about the Krishnamurti's teachings. But in Rishi Valley it doesn't happen, because there they say no, Krishnamurti is difficult to understand, and
so even for seniors at Rishi Valley there is no culture class, the so-called.
There is not much. When I go, then I ask. They have culture class. There are some teachers who take culture class and they are interested in Krishnamurti. There is opportunity exists for students and teachers to come together and sit together and discuss. But generally not many people. People are very busy throughout the day, one thing after the other thing. And sometimes they have culture class in the afternoon when they are very tired also.
Well, at least they try to have it, because in the American school they haven't. They basically don't have don't have any of it. They've tried different things. At the moment they don't have any of it, and I don't think that's good. I think they should have it, because after all, this is a K school,
Right.
and to say that he's too difficult, or we want to kind of distance ourselves from it, I don't think is right, because and try and rely on just the atmosphere is not enough, because as you and I know, Kay pointed out some very key things which in my opinion require studying, and that's one of the reasons that people find it difficult, is because they don't study properly. You know, they read one paragraph here and one passage there, they say, oh my god, this is so difficult. Of course.
No, this thing really works only if you are really passionate about it, and nobody tells you to read. Like nobody told me to read Krishnamurti. I came across just like that by chance, and it happens to some few people. When they read, they get attracted, and then that becomes the most important thing. You know.
Yes.
And now it's not reading also Krishnamurti, but reading your own book of life. You know.
Exactly.
Right,
but it provides the pointers, and you can apply it and so on. Nevertheless, I meet a lot of people, a lot of young people, and every time the subject comes up, and it's never Krishnamurti, because it's not him, he's not important. It's the key questions of living which are important. It's the struggle that this person is going through in that relationship, or whatever it might be. And once we start going into that, which just kind of starts naturally, always, I never try to direct it, then it becomes very apparent very quickly that a lot of the insights that Krishnamurti pointed to, explored, play a critical role, you know?
Yeah, yes.
And so the point about the schools is that I think the youngster who's there, a 17-year-old, this is a ripe age. He's not a kid, he's not an adult. I bet you anything he's going through psychological turmoil. The image making. I wish when I was 17 somebody would come and say, hey, try having no image at all. You know what I mean? I didn't get it till I was 19, but still.
Now
so
when I
to give
go
the kid the opportunity, I think is a good thing.
Now when I go to Rishi Valley, I take one class each, like starting from 9th, 9A, 9B, 10A, 10B, 11, 12. I meet all these students once, and I tell them, and they listen also, sit together, and I ask them, can you really watch your own mind, you know, how these thoughts arise, and can you tell me if everybody sit quietly, can you watch what the next thought comes, and then they become very alert, you know. And then sometimes at one time one girl said, but there is nothing coming, you know. Means when you really watch very carefully, thinking stops. You know, when you really want to watch, it's like I was telling this image, like there is a cat and there is a rat, and the cat runs after the rat. Rat goes in the hole, and then the cat is waiting outside, and the rat, as soon as the rat comes, pounce on it. So that cat, that represents the awareness, and that rat which has gone in the hole is the thought. You know? So something like that, if you become very, very alert to watch your own mind, the mind stops, you know. And at that time, two things can happen. Either you feel wonderful, or you feel frightened of not having any thought, you know. Having no sense of being is frightening for many people, you know, and so they don't want to be silent, and then it's very difficult to be really free and experience that thing which is nothing, you know. And in that nothing, everything is wonderful. You know. But
Yeah,
but that
sure.
is difficult. I think many people frighten of that.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, part of the fright is that the self itself is gone.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's about death. It's about psychological death.
That's right.
And our habit is to give, or most people's habit is to give continuity to the self through the activity of thought. Nevertheless, what you said is very interesting in that you try to teach the student to be aware of thought. I think this is a big step for many people. Because for most people, if you say thought, they don't even know what you're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
To see it, like you brought the example of the rat, that I think most people are just, the rat is working so busily in a rat race.
Yeah, right, yeah.
That they don't even see that rat is so it's very good to just be quiet and then have some space, and then as it arises to see it. I think this is a very good first step.
It's like, Krishnamurti says freedom is at the beginning, the freedom to observe, So even to watch this thinking, it requires that freedom, silence. And that can happen to some people. I think they can become very quiet and begin to observe.
And then comes, so you see the process of thought. You become aware of what it even means to think, and also the content comes up not just when you're sitting quietly, but during your daily life. Whether it's your conditioning of whatever happened in your childhood or whatever happened yesterday, or everything that gives rise to the reactions that come into your being in certain relationships, which could be with other people or in certain places, or to some idea, for example. And then to be aware of these, and then in a way it's like a house cleaning, in a way, in the sense that you become free from these things by being aware of them as they come up. Whereas the traditional system says, do the mantra, force the mind into quietness, and hope that it goes into a state of wonderfulness. And I know several people who practice TM, whose life is a mess, whose room is a mess, and they sit down and they want to have wonderfulness for 25 minutes a day. But this is almost artificial because it's not holistic. Right?
Yeah.
So this is another big distinguishing factor and unique, or not necessarily unique because many people have said these. Krishnamurti wasn't the first one, but versus some traditional schools, especially the modern gurus. Modern being from 1920s onward. I don't know how it was before then. The 20th century and the 21st century, we have the West shaping what happened to this gurudom. I don't know, I'm guessing. Because suddenly there's money and there's gullible people lacking something. They're looking for a more profound answer. I have an answer for you, Just give me, just 2 days ago I met some wonderful person who says, I need to go to India to see my guru. Who's your guru? I don't want to say. But he charges $6,000 plus your flight and everything to go to India for 21 days. 6,000 in India, you can get a 7-course meal for $2. So 6,000 is a lot of money.
I never went to any guru in my life. A guru comes to you in some way, maybe, if you are ready.
But what do you mean by guru? You mean
a guru or somebody who points the right way to you.
Okay, so you define guru as a pointer. Because most people these days, when you think of the guru, the definition is not that. The definition of a guru in modern day, as I understand it, is somebody who, whether you take Yogananda or Ramakrishna Ananda or you name it, there are many. These people pose themselves as a savior of your soul, basically, soul, whatever you want to think of it, that you basically, they take your karma, theoretically, and then, but this is the same old laziness business. It's the same story as the Catholic priests or whatever Christian priests saying, give me the money, I reserve a space for you in heaven. Or every religion has its own, you know, people who abuse certain. I mean, every religion has the good things. They also have the abusers, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, but you say the guru meaning more some. So you're saying that life itself gives you pointers.
Yeah, like
tips, hints.
Nobody told me to read Krishnamurti or anything. It comes when you are sometimes I feel that you are not doing anything, but things are just happening to you. You know.
Krishnamurti used to say, "Is it coincidence,
yeah.
or is it chance, or a deeper layer of cause and effect?" But it's also very important for you and I and other people who've been touched deeply by these teachings, at least in my life, is this way. I want to make sure I'm not idolizing this man.
Right.
Because there is such a heavy tradition and habit of humanity to make a new guru or a new leader or new something to worship.
Yeah.
And he said, and he begged people himself, says, please don't do this to me. Otherwise somebody's going to have to come and get you out of that mess.
No, initially I used to think that, oh, how great this man is, Krishnamurti. At the age of 85, he is so much energy, full. And I was very much devoted to him. And one day when I was in Canada, I got a very bad dream. And in that dream, I saw that Krishnamurti has gone mad. Something has gone wrong. And he's shouting, and people around him, they thought that if he remains like this, mad person, nobody is going to read his books. So they kill him, and then they take him to burn his body. And again he comes and starts shouting something mad. And then again they kill him. And then I got up, and then I felt, what is the meaning of, why did I have such dream? So then I thought that the dream was telling me, don't depend on this man, because anything, if he goes mad, what will happen to you? So you have to have clarity for yourself. Don't attach any importance to him, the man, you know. But you find your own life, you know. Clarity. And that is what Buddha also said, you know, be a light to yourself. Krishnamurti also said the same thing.
Rumi said the same thing.
Yes, and many Zen people also say the same thing. That don't depend on a person. So later on I used to talk with him very freely. Sometimes he used to get angry also with me. But I did not mind, and I listened to him, you know. But I would not accept everything what Krishnamurti says. Like he says all saints were neurotics, or I would not accept such a thing, you know.
Yeah, I don't agree. In fact, I don't believe anything Krishnamurti says.
Yeah, right. Yes.
He's just a set of pointers.
Yeah.
He just happens to be a very bright, intelligent, freelance thinker who pointed out certain things.
Yeah.
And I go after those things he points to, and I see, you know, is there truth to it or not? And he's not important anymore. And I think he was a great person. He was very brilliant. He's one of the smartest people I knew. One of the most passionate people.
Right.
When I met him, like you said, we shook hands. It's like love is pouring out of his eyes.
Yeah.
It's like you've known. First time we met, it was like he knew me for I don't know how long. You know, old friends meeting. You know, so you know, non-pretentious, humble, loving, brilliant. So every quality of you as a friend may have, and I say you're a great man for these things, or could be my father, could be my friend. So, but also part of his greatness was that he was a human.
Yeah, that's right.
He went through experiences that you and I go through.
Right. Yeah.
but people like to, because of that habit of making and in fact your dream is very interesting, that people around him killed him because they said he's gone mad. But so the people around him want to protect an image. And the same thing is happening today.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah.
And this leads to distortions and so on.
Right.
He had relationship, he had love affair, all of these things he had. I mean, and that's why you could speak to it so about strongly. Otherwise, if you're like locked in some cave and you try to talk about jealousy or it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yes, he had fear, and he has gone through all that. Somebody told me that he was afraid of Raja Gopal, Krishnaji, and he spent the whole night outside. He could not go into the room because he thought that Raja Gopal will get angry. So he spent the whole night outside in, cold. And even in Krishnamurti and Raja Gopal, that small booklet which Mary Luthien has written in response to Lives in the Shadow. In that book also Krishnamurti says, I was shivering with fear for Raja Gopal because he used to be very angry, and Krishnamurti was very quiet. And Krishnamurti said, now Raja Gopal must be shivering because Krishnamurti had got good friends to fight against Raja Gopal, Before that, there was nobody to help Krishnamurti against Raja Gopal, and he used to depend completely on him,
Yeah.
So he had gone through all these feelings, but he talks about it genuinely, what he has experienced.
Yeah, people were upset when that book came out. I mean, it is I'm talking about Life in the Shadows because it is a bad book in the sense of it has internal logical errors. She says because of this and that, therefore that. But it just doesn't add up. And I wrote to her. We had correspondence. In fact, I will release these letters when I find time. And her ultimate answer was, well, I could say whatever I want because of freedom of speech. Yes, but it doesn't add up. But nevertheless, I mean, people were upset that, oh my God, he had sex with this woman, or he had love affair with this woman. And they were upset about this because of an image that they made.
Right. Yeah.
I never read him say, don't have it. I never read him say, I don't have it. He said celibacy is to have no image.
Right.
Which is very profound.
Yeah. Yes.
And in fact, it made him even greater in my mind because I saw another aspect of his life, which was he was a human.
Yes. I think that he really loved Rosalind, and maybe Rosalind loved him, but in a different way than Krishnamurti. She was very possessive, jealous, and all that. Krishnamurti had no such feelings, and he was open to many women, many friends.
I mean, around here he was like I mean, I don't know. I'm not a woman, obviously, and I don't understand the female biology and the physiology. But there were many women here who were like in love with him. In more than just. And then many who listen to him, they don't even really listen to him. They just listen to the sound of the voice and that beautiful nose and those eyes, And then they just think, oh, well, 40 years later. I'm still in the same mess. It must be his problem because there must be something wrong with this. You know what I mean? I know people like that.
Right. Yeah.
In fact, I met Rosalind too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Before she died. She was a beautiful woman, even at that old age.
Yeah?
She was. She had practically lost her mind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she was on a wheelchair. But.
Okay. And when did you meet Krishnaji?
First time in '83.
83.
Yeah.
Where?
In Ojai.
In Ojai. Okay.
Yeah. Somebody gave me Think on These Things. They left it on my doorstep. I came back from a yoga retreat and found this book, and I had no idea who had given it to me. I didn't read it. I didn't pay attention to it. Just put it on my bookshelf because I was going through, early college, and a couple of years or a year later, I took what was called at that time the EST seminar. I don't know if you know about this.
What?
EST. EST.
EST, yeah, okay.
This was something which was kind of fashionable in the 80s, and Werner Erhard had started it. He started this by having an insight on a San Francisco Bay Bridge or Golden Gate Bridge after reading Krishnamurti. And then in this seminar, at the end of this seminar, I wasn't going to take it, but they talked to me. They're very pushy and sales oriented. Oh, we give you a student discount, $300 or whatever. So I took it. At the end of the seminars, they say, and when you get to these higher states of consciousness, you can understand people like Krishnamurti. I was like, Krishnamurti, that sounds familiar. I have a book. So I started reading, thinking on these things, and it blew me away. The first several chapters I didn't really understand, but once it started clicking, it's like, oh my God, this is so alive.
Yeah.
And at the end, I wrote to the foundation and I said, you know, who is this guy? Is he alive? And I need more books. And they said, he's talking here. So I went to his talks. First time I just camped out there.
What was your age at that time? 83?
In 83, off the record. So then I saw most of the talks in 83, 84, 85, about 15 talks. And after some of the talks I went up and, because usually I was either volunteering here or was like first in line. So I always sat first row or the second row in the center. And one of the talks I was just standing next to him and somebody gave him a flower. A lady who cooks at the Oak Grove School actually, and he handed it to me, a red rose, which I still have actually. Anyway, but a few times we met.
Krishnamurti gave you that flower?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That reminds me of Buddha was holding a flower and Mahakassapa, he smiled at Buddha and Buddha gave the, and Buddha said the Mahakassapa had understood the teachings, you know, non-verbally.
Nice story. Yeah, he had tremendous energy. Yeah. It's so easy to fall for the person because, you know, so you see this extraordinary person. But just like you said, I had read the books or several. It took me like 10 years to read through everything. But by the time I saw him, I had read, so it's like going to a concert and when you've listened to the music, you enjoy it more. Yeah. So I've done the work already. There were people there who were like exposed to this just there, they had a hard time. But I already read, when he was talking about these concepts, I knew what he was talking about. So it was much easier, you know?
Yeah.
And it was a holistic experience in the sense that when you sat in the Oak Grove, there was this fragile, strong old man sitting on the platform. And beautiful day under the trees, the breeze is coming, the birds are singing, he's talking, and he's saying some very profound things. And sometimes when he says a very profound thing, the breeze blows too, and the birds feel it. They start singing louder because they can hear it in his voice. Because I don't know why, I cannot explain it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That otherness is there.
But when he talked, he was too powerful, I think.
Sorry, just to come back to what you were saying about him saying all saints are fools or whatever. My understanding of this approach is that here's this guy, a true revolutionary. He's, you know, enough said. How is he going to even get these ideas across so he is understood? I think, this is my interpretation, my understanding of it, I could be wrong, but I think he had to almost take an extreme stance in order to shake up the establishment to get the points across.
Yeah. It's very disturbing for many people. And many people have told me that they made a mistake in reading Krishnamurti because he shows what is happening and they can see what is happening, but still there is no freedom. So many people have sleepless nights and a sense, kind of a very disturbed mind. they know that what Krishnamurti says is true, but they cannot live that way. So it creates more conflict.
But they need to go further.
Yeah, right.
Because that element of disturbance is obviously there.
Yeah.
When you've lived a certain way of life for 20 years and somebody comes along and says, hey, wait, all these things you're relying on, people's opinions and images and this and that and conclusions, that because conclusions play a huge role in people's lives.
Yeah.
They just make a lot of conclusions which are not necessary, and these are walls that they build around themselves. Here he comes and says, an intelligent mind doesn't make conclusions. Of course, psychologically, because technologically, we need to make conclusions.
Yeah.
So it is disturbing.
Yeah.
But then to take the next step, to take it further, is the important thing.
Yeah. Yes. But some teachers, probably, who are very gentle, like Thich Nhat Hanh or Eckhart Tolle, they go in a very gentle way and they create certain atmosphere where people can begin to understand, something of deeper nature. So Krishnamurti was not like that. He was just like cutting through everything and leaving you without any support.
I disagree. Because I think that Eckhart Tolle, for example, he even admits it. I mean, perhaps Krishnamurti needed to do this so that people like him, or even Rajneesh, who also was effectively a student of K, that these guys can put it in a more milder form or whatnot. Yeah. So these were people who learned from K. But whether that kind of packaging is, I mean, ultimately whatever works, but I don't find his stances to be impractical in any way, or to leave me hanging in any way, because the journey is yours. Yeah. It shows you a path, and then you start walking. I mean, he just shows you a pointer, and then you start going a certain direction, and then it's up to you and your intelligence and the universe that you're relating with.
Yeah, but Krishnamurti can work for some people like me. I could begin to see very clearly, because maybe through young age I was also reading many books, philosophical nature. But for many people, Krishnamurti would be very disturbing, and they would not go into Krishnamurti. They will reject Krishnamurti very quickly. So such people need the help of some very gentle philosophy which can take them from silence or meditation technique, and maybe their mind can become more subtle to understand Krishnamurti.
Perhaps so, yeah.
Yeah, right. Because Krishnamurti is very subtle, very...
Absolutely.
Yeah. Not, though what he says is true, but very difficult to see it clearly.
But it wasn't for you.
For me it was easy, because...
So please don't say it's difficult, because for you it was easy. For the people for whom it's difficult, I believe it's because they don't take the time to study. They don't have maybe the passion, the energy, or so on, or maybe a studious mind. Maybe because you and I both have formal education, which might even help too.
Right. Yeah.
Because we had to study certain things, so it's an art of studying, perhaps. Which helps, because K is like, the way I see it, is like any other subject. Yeah. You need to study it in a way.
No, it's the ability to look at yourself. That is very important. Ability to look at yourself clearly, whatever is happening. That is not very easy.
But could it be because you and I both have lived a lifestyle which gives us a lot of freedom? Right? You and I both chose not to get married, and so on. You said earlier to be alone is important to you.
Yes.
The same way with me.
Right. Yeah.
So would you say that this ability to see yourself, or whatever that however you put it, is related to having space
Yeah,
and
right.
time and
Yeah.
freedom.
Right.
So these other people that you're saying who have a difficulties, maybe because their lives are so busy,
Yes, right.
so occupied.
Yes.
So it comes back to not giving it enough attention.
Yeah,
And
so
energy
there is
and
not the
passion.
freedom at the beginning, you know,
Right.
to look clearly. Otherwise, Krishnamurti is very simple and very
Exactly.
direct. You can.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
not some difficult subject. It's
Right.
far simpler than calculus
Mm.
or many other subjects.
Mm.
So there's a problem with myths.
Mm.
Because we humans are, you know, many of the religious beliefs of every religion
Mm.
never happened.
Yeah.
But people absolutely believe they happened only because they were repeated again and again and again.
Mm.
So there's a danger around this work,
Mm.
and this is something that I take interest in because
Mm.
as an observer, as a
Mm.
person who is living in this era, post-K era, post-K, you know,
Mm.
after he died, I take an interest in this because
Mm.
I have seen what humanity has done to other great thinkers, the
Mm.
distortions and so on and so forth.
Mm.
So one of the things is this myth making. So I wrote a couple of articles called
Mm.
the myth of nobody got it.
Mm.
Because if you remember during the Star of the East
Mm.
days,
Yeah.
people were upset that Kay said,
Mm.
you have to do the work yourself.
Mm.
I'm not going to do it for you.
Mm.
Now, every other guru, whether it's Yogananda or
Mm.
whoever,
Mm.
who are, you know, respectable people in
Mm.
their own ways, they say they will do the work for you.
Mm.
People who believe in Yogananda,
Yeah.
they say now, I was
Mm.
actually in a retreat, a beautiful place, Northern
Yeah.
California,
Mm.
wonderful.
Mm.
They say that
Mm.
he's still my guru even if he's dead.
Mm.
Now, if you start going into it,
Mm.
it starts sounding a bit absurd, but you know,
Mm.
how many disciples he has, and for
Mm.
every chela he has to do, I
Mm.
think it's like 40% of their work or whatnot.
Mm.
But anyway, Kay says you have to do the work and they were upset.
Mm.
In this day and age, nothing has changed. It's the same thing. People either they don't want to do work because they're lazy. And here comes this guy, throws in some deep challenges.
Mm.
Like, is it possible to live without fear? Is it possible not to think until you have to think, until it's necessary for you to think?
Mm.
Is it possible for the mind to understand thought's limits?
Mm.
And these are big things.
Yeah.
And the easiest thing is not to beat up other. Oh, well, nobody got it. It's too difficult.
Yeah.
So, but the important thing is that at least I try to document these things
Mm-hmm.
so that at least if 50 years or 500 years down the
Yeah.
road, somebody Googles,
Mm.
they can say, oh, there was one guy who wrote the myth of nobody got it
Mm-hmm.
back then, but today everybody
Yeah.
still thinks that nobody got it.
Yeah. Mm.
Anything else, sir?
No.
I know it's getting late and you're
Yeah.
flying tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
you.
Yeah.
I hope it's not another
Mm.
5-10 years before we
Yeah.
meet again.
I speak very little in my life, you know. Hardly, sometimes days don't speak at all. But when people like you come, or I feel very happy to talk, you know. Otherwise, only to see and let it go.
I like to come back to India. I miss India.
Yeah. What do you do nowadays?
I do IT project management.
Project management.
Yeah, information technology.
Okay.
I write. I play music.
Okay. Lots of activities. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
some biotech research.
Mm-hmm.
Talking to young
Yeah,
people.
I looked at your website, which full of so many things. Yeah.
Got a lot of interests.
Yeah, something about habits like smoking and drinking, and
Yeah.
that also you are doing.
Yeah, I'm talking to young people about
Yeah,
this because it's a
right.
big problem.
Yeah.
Because on the other side, in a way, I'm fighting the big guys.
Mm.
Big tobacco
Mm.
wants to. Their business
Mm.
business plan is to get young people addicted.
Mm.
This is evil.
Yeah.
So instead, I go to young people just arbitrarily, and I
Right,
say,
yeah.
"Do you like smoking?" And they usually say, "Well, of course I do. Otherwise, I won't do it." Really? This is a common argument. Or they say, if they're really smart, they say, "No, I don't like it. I do it because I'm addicted." But usually, it's not that. And then they say, "Yeah, I like it." I say, "How many do you smoke?" 20. Do you like every cigarette? Yes. Do you like every puff of every cigarette? So, you know, zeroing that. And then at the end of that conversation, they get to see that, oh really, they're doing something they don't like, they're spending money making themselves unhealthy, and so on and so on. So, you know, just awareness. I mean, that's what helped in my life, is to be aware of what I am and what I do.
Yeah. Generally, people like to escape from their problems, so they take up something like this, drinking or smoking.
There was, I think, the secretary of the Krishnamurti Foundation in India was a smoker, and Kay told him, it doesn't help anything. It just makes your life more complicated, or something like that, which is so true.
Yeah.
The society puts a lot of pressure on young people. Michael Mendiza was saying that because he's done a lot of research about youngsters, he says that they're kind of in a state of hypnosis because evolution has made it that way, so the kid doesn't see the kind of society he's growing to be into. But then they grow up, they're teenagers, and then there's a great level of discontent, you know, the flame of discontent and unhappiness, which leads in most thought-based, heavily thought-based societies like Switzerland, there's a huge number of suicides because of this utter unhappiness, although they are so rich. And then you go to India, where you see the poor guy selling chestnuts, and he's got this beautiful smile.
Yes. Yeah.
In one of the talks in Rajghat, was it? Or Rishi Valley, I don't remember, Kay said to the kids, he said, when thinking understands its own limits, and he revised it quickly and said, when mind understands thought's limits, then the doors of heaven open. So then you learn, like you said, your brain changes. You go through your life, then you've learned where thinking belongs and where it doesn't. And it stops where it doesn't belong, and it makes life so much easier.
Yes, we create so many problems because we don't see things clearly. So it's just like a simple example. If your friend is coming from the opposite direction and you are walking, and your friend doesn't look at you, you think that, oh, your friend has changed, he doesn't like you, but your friend may be in his own world, he may not have noticed you, you know. So we create so many problems by imagining things which may not be true.
Exactly. And this guy, this brilliant guy, goes into it so beautifully. He says, look, the building blocks of thought are memory, experience, knowledge, therefore it's limited, therefore it's divisive. Where there's division, there's conflict. I mean, he lays it out so beautifully.
Very clearly.
And people say he's too intellectual and so on, but really, the way I understand it, he spends a lot of years, a lot of the big percentage of his talking time talking about love.
Yes.
What is not love, and to eliminate that which is not love. And the immeasurable, the immensity, the otherness, God, whatever you want to call it, that other movement, which is not of time. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.